Hi, John from Diode Dynamics. Today we'll be installing our Stage Series reverse light kit on this 2021 Ford Bronco. Now whether you went with our SSC1s, SSC2s, or SS3s, the installation process is exactly the same. Let's get started. Starting with our tailgate open, we'll need a Phillips head screwdriver and a plastic trim removal tool because we'll be removing 4 plastic clips from this inner trim panel. Now we can use a 10mm socket to remove the last 2 bolts on the inside of our panel. Then, once those are removed, we can pull the panel off and away from the vehicle. Next, we can unplug our taillight. Once that's disconnected, we can grab our included harness and plug one end into the body harness of the vehicle and the other end into the taillight. Once connected, make sure to press down on the red locking tab, and then you can take the other end of the connectors and tuck them away. Back at the rear of the vehicle, we'll now be removing the spare tire. Now we have an aftermarket setup, so we'll have a specific socket, but if you have your factory wheel, then you'll just need to use a 19mm deep socket. Coming back inside the tailgate, we'll now be removing this plastic trim panel. To do so, you'll want to grab the left side over here and pry forward, and then we'll be working our way across the bottom to remove the entire panel. Looking through our spare tire carrier, you'll notice some vents with some flaps. We'll be flipping up the top left flap so it can feed through the female end of our DT splitter. Now we can take the DT end of our adapter harness and route it down behind the bumper to the ground. Then we can lift this access panel in the trunk and move underneath the vehicle. Coming from underneath the vehicle, we can take the DT end of our harness and route it through this large oval in the frame. And then using a 10mm socket, we'll be removing 1 bolt here on the heat shield. Looking at the center of the heat shield, you'll notice an arrow. Just on the other side of that is a rubber grommet that you'll need to pop out of place, so then we can take the DT connector from our harness and route it up and through into the trunk. Coming back to the trunk, we can pull the rest of our harness through that hole. And once everything's pulled through, we can re-secure our new grommet that's attached to our harness. Now we can take our DT connector from our harness and route it underneath this lower trim panel and then behind this side panel and out this access hole. To release the bottom panel, we'll simply reach underneath and pry up to pop it free. And then for the side, we'll reach behind and pull it away, popping 1 clip. Next, coming back to the tailgate, we can grab the female end of our splitter and finish pulling it through to the other side, and then we can grab the DT connector from our harness and plug it in. From here, you can take the rest of the harness and route it alongside the factory harness so it's out of the way, and then we can take our tailgate panel and snap it back in place. If you like to manually control your pods using your auxiliary switches, then you continue watching. However, if you'd only like to rely on your factory signals, then you can take the remaining end of your harness, tuck it away behind the side panel, and skip to the timestamp below. Next, we can take our harness and disconnect our amp connector. Then we can take our auxiliary adapter and plug our amp connectors in line. Next, we'll need to drop our rear passenger seat all the way down because we need to access an auxiliary lead behind the side panel. To begin, we'll need to remove the center panel up top by simply pulling away from the vehicle. Then we can grab the trim by the door jamb and pull away to release it. Next, we can take the crimp end of our harness and route it through our access hole. And since we've loosened the side panel, we can reach down inside, locate that crimp, pull the rest of the harness through, set that aside, and then we can take the rest of the harness and feed it behind the side panel, up and out of the way. Coming back to the rear seat, behind the side panel, we'll be locating an orange and white wire to crimp it to our auxiliary adapter. Coming to the front passenger seat, we now need to gain access behind the glove box. To do so, we'll drop that down and locate two levers on the top left and right hand corner of the glove box to push them in and drop it just a little bit further. Then slide the slow drop lever forward and pop it out from the glove box. Looking behind the glove box, we'll need to identify a white wire and a white wire with an orange stripe. We'll be stripping these and then connecting them using a butt connector. Coming into the engine bay, we'll need to identify two more auxiliary wires. Here in this corner, you'll be able to find a white wire and a brown and green wire. We're going to strip those and connect those using a butt connector. Once they're connected, we can head to the rear of the vehicle. We're now ready to bolt our spare tire back on. When doing so, we'll only be using the factory lug nut for the bottom. For the top two, we've included an additional 60mm and 90mm extensions. Since we have an aftermarket wheel setup that's more aggressive with a higher offset, we'll be installing our 90mm extensions using a 19mm socket. Next, we can bolt on our reverse light bracket to our extended lug nuts with our M12 bolt and washer using a 19mm socket. We can now mount our pods to our brackets. We'll begin by pulling the splitter through the spokes. Depending on your wheel design and preference, you can either mount your pods on top of the bracket or underneath. For our application today, we'll be mounting them on top. We can then place our universal bracket on top of our reverse light bracket and then drop through our carriage bolt, feeding on our washer, lock washer, and nut, fastening that only hand tight so we have room for adjustment later. Next, we can bolt our SSC2 to our universal bracket using the supplied nut and bolt, and then we can repeat the same steps to install our other pod. Finally, you can plug in your pods and tighten them down after making your final aiming adjustments. As you can see, with our Stage Series reverse light kit installed, not only do you have a significant increase in light output directly behind the vehicle that automatically turns on when put in reverse or manually controllable by your auxiliary switches, but you'll also have an additional red accent light. If you're looking for a Stage Series reverse light kit for your vehicle or any of our other products, visit our website at diodedynamics.com or use our dealer locator tool to find a dealer near you. And if you want to stay up to date on any newer future products, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. Thanks for watching.